Hello students, I am Dr. Khushnuda Parveen. Today I am going to discuss about blood supply of cerebrum. Blood supply of brain. Why blood supply of brain is necessary? Turtle can walk around for hours with no oxygen supply to their brain. In contrast, our brain are absolutely dependent upon the continuous supply of well oxygenated blood. After just 10 seconds of brain ischemia, we lose. After 20 seconds, electrical activity ceases, and after just a few minutes, irreversible damage usually begins. Corresponding to this metabolic dependence, blood vessels in the central nervous system, particularly in gray matter, are arranged in a dense net meshwork. An understanding of brain's blood supply is essential to an understanding of its normal function and of consequences of the cerebrovascular diseases. The arterial supply of brain and much of the spinal cord are derived from two pairs of the vessels. The arteries are directed in essence to the gray matter, which need more blood than the white matter. Superficial cortical arteries supply the gray matter of the surface. Perforating arteries supply the subcortical nuclei. Both sets of the arteries send branches to the adjacent white matter. The two pairs of arteries are the internal carotid arteries and vertebral arteries. The internal carotid artery provides about 80% of supplying the most of the telencephalon and much of the diencephalon. The vertebral system provides remaining 20% supplying the brain stem and cerebellum as well as part of the diencephalon, spinal cord, occipital and temporal lobes. See, these two are internal carotid arteries and these two are vertebral arteries. Here is the cut portion of the internal carotid artery. This is the internal carotid artery, right and left internal carotid artery and right and left vertebral artery supplying the whole of the brain. Now come to the internal carotid arteries. The internal carotid artery is the major pair artery, one on each side of the head and neck. They arises from the common carotid artery. Common carotid artery arises from the arch of aorta, where these two common carotid arteries bifurcate into internal and external carotid arteries at the cervical vertebral level of the third or fourth cervical vertebral layer. The common carotid artery bifurcate into internal and external carotid artery. Internal carotid artery supplying the brain, external carotid artery supply the head and neck. Internal carotid artery at the bifurcation from common carotid artery lie lateral to the external carotid artery. Lie in close relation with in the brain, it lie in close relation with the optic nerve. See, this is internal carotid artery. It is arbitrarily divided during its course. It divided into various parts. This part is known as cervical part. Once it entered the carotid canal in the petrous temporal bone, the part is known as petrous part. From here, carotid canal, it passes to the cavernous sinus over the foramen lacerum. This part is known as cavernous part, from where it passes to the base of the cerebrum, known as cerebral part. Here is cervical part, petrous part, cavernous part and cerebral part. Along its course, the artery is divided into four parts: cervical part, petrous part, cavernous part and cerebral part. Cerebral part lie at the base of the brain. See, this is the cervical part. This one is we run through the carotid canal which lie in the petrous temporal bone. This part is known as petrous part. Once it passes to the cranial cavity, this part is known as cavernous part, which lie in the cavernous sinus, where from here it passes to the base of the brain. This part is known as cerebral part. From cervical parts there is no branches. In the petrous part it gives two branches. One is the artery of the pterygoid canal and another one is the corticotympanic branch. Corticotympanic branch. In the cavernous part it gives superior and inferior hypophyseal artery and meningeal branches. Superior and inferior hypophyseal artery and meningeal branches. Cavernous branch is a branch given to the trigeminal ganglion. In the cervical part, it branch into anterior and middle cerebral artery. Before bifurcation, it give off first branch, which is known as ophthalmic artery, which run through with the optic nerve to supply the eye. Here is the ophthalmic artery which supply the eye. Two small branches, it also gives two small branches. One is the cerebral part of the internal carotid artery. First is the ophthalmic artery, second one is the posterior communicating artery, and third one is the anterior choroidal artery. Then bifurcate into anterior cerebral artery and middle cerebral artery. On angiogram, this turning S-shaped figure. On angiogram, this S-shaped figure is known as carotid chiffon. Now come to the cerebral part of the internal carotid artery. Internal carotid artery give rise to the ophthalmic artery, as I told you, which travel along the optic nerve to the orbit, where it supply the eye, other orbital content and some nearby structures. The internal carotid artery then proceeds superiorly alongside the optic chiasma to supply alongside of optic chiasma and bifurcate into the middle and anterior cerebral arteries. Before bifurcation, it gives two smaller branches. One is the anterior choroidal artery and second is the posterior communicating artery. Anterior choroidal artery is long, thin artery that can be significant clinically, as in it supply a number of different structures and is frequently involved in cerebrovascular accident. As I told you in previous classes, anterior choroidal artery supply the basal ganglia and internal capsules. So it is very important artery. Damage to this artery can cause devastating cerebrovascular accident. See, in this diagram, I also try to describe the parts of the internal carotid. This is cervical part, this is petrous part, here is the petrous temporal bone, here cavernous sinus, the artery lie in the cavernous sinus, then into the cerebral part. Here is the optic chiasma, here is the artery bifurcates. Along its course, it supplies the optic tract, internal carotid artery, supplying the optic tract, choroid plexus of inferior horn of the lateral ventricle, some deep brain structures, as well as portion of internal capsule, basal ganglia, thalamus and hippocampus. The posterior communicating artery passes posteriorly, inferior to the optic tract and towards the cerebral peduncle, join the posterior cerebral artery. Internal carotid artery bifurcate in anterior cerebral and middle cerebral artery. Now I am going to describe about the anterior cerebral artery. See, here is the internal carotid artery, which is divided into, this is the middle cerebral artery and this is the anterior cerebral artery. Okay, this one is the anterior cerebral artery, this is the middle cerebral artery. The anterior cerebral artery runs medially superior to the optic nerve. It runs medially superior to the optic nerve. Enter the longitudinal fissure. The two anterior cerebral arteries near their entrance into longitudinal fissure are connected by anterior communicating artery. Here is the anterior communicating artery. Two arteries are joined together near its entrance, near its origin by the anterior communicating artery. The anterior cerebral artery then arcs posteriorly following the corpus callosum. Here it passes to the near entrance longitudinal fissure and curved medially in the middle surface of the cerebrum, curved posteriorly over the corpus callosum to supply the medial part of the frontal and parietal lobes. Distal to the anterior communicating artery, the anterior cerebral arteries gives two branches, medial striate and recurrent artery of the Hubner. It supplies the basal ganglia and internal capsule, then continues as pericallosal artery. Pericallosal artery. These arteries which run above the corpus callosum is known as pericallosal artery. Near the genu, a branch gives off known as callosomarginal branch, which run above the cingulate gyrus. This is the callosomarginal gyrus. This is the pericallosal. This is the callosomarginal artery. This is the pericallosal arteries. Occlusion of anterior cerebral artery causes restricted contralateral motor and somatosensory deficit, affecting the leg more than other part of the body because of somatotopic arrangement. I told you in my previous classes, this area is the motor and sensory area for the foot and leg areas due to somatotopic arrangement. So this area is involved in occlusion of the anterior cerebral artery, give contralateral deficit because it is upper motor neuron type of paralysis. So contralateral part of the body are involved. Now come to the middle cerebral artery. Second larger branch of the internal carotid is middle cerebral artery. The large middle cerebral artery proceeds laterally into the lateral sulcus. See, this is the middle cerebral artery which run in the lateral sulcus. It divides into number of branches that supply the insula. This area is here is the insula. Emerges from the lateral sulcus, spread out to supply the most of the lateral surface of the cerebral hemisphere. Anterior cerebral artery supply the medial surface, middle cerebral supply the lateral surface of the cerebral hemisphere. Most of the precentral and postcentral gyri, that is motor and sensory cortex, are within this area of the supply. So occlusion of the middle cerebral artery causes major motor or somatosensory deficit. In addition, if the left hemisphere is involved, then language deficit is almost invariably found because Broca's motor speech area are more prominent in the left side of the hemisphere. Along its course towards the lateral sulcus, the middle cerebral artery gives rise to as many as a dozen very small branches that penetrate the brain near its origin, supply the deep structure of diencephalon and telencephalon. These particular arteries are called lenticulostriate arteries. Perforating arteries are particularly numerous in the area adjacent to the optic chiasma and in area between the cerebral peduncles. For this reason, they are known as anterior and posterior perforated substance. From these perforated substance, numerous branches, a dozen of small vessels from the middle cerebral and anterior cerebral arteries passes through the deeper structures, give it a perforated appearance known as anterior and posterior perforated substance. See, this is the lateral sulcus. Here lie the middle cerebral artery which give branches, but before, just at the origin. Here, see here, this is internal carotid artery which divided into middle cerebral and anterior cerebral. This middle cerebral artery give rise to here this is optic chiasma. Okay, just lateral to the optic chiasma, here is the perforated substance known as anterior perforated substance bilaterally, which through which small vessels enters into the deeper structure of the brain or cerebral hemisphere. This structure is known as sieve-like structure is known as perforated substance. Another perforated substance lie here between the cerebral peduncles. Here again there is the vertebral arteries system from which the arteries passes to the deeper structure through this perforated substance. A narrow, thin-walled vessels of the anterior perforated substance are involved frequently in strokes. The strokes are the disease caused by occlusion of the arteries of the cerebrum. Deep cerebral structure they supply are such that damage to these small vessels can cause neurological deficit out of proportion of their size. For example, the somatosensory projections from the thalamus to the postcentral gyrus must passes through the internal capsule, as all these structures are described in my previous classes. Damage to the small part of the internal capsule from rupture or occlusion of perforating arteries can cause deficit similar to those resulting from damage to the large expanse of the cortex. Okay. The internal capsule is highly compact structure. A small damage in internal capsule causes large damage in the large expanse of the cortex. See, in this diagram, here is the cortical perforating arteries and this is the perforated substance. Here is the perforated substance. This is anterior perforated substance. Here is optic chiasma. Here is the perforated substance. Now come to the vertebral basilar system. Two vertebral arteries arises from subclavian artery on each side of the body, then enter the foramen transversarium at the level of 6 cervical vertebrae. See, here is the foramen transversarium. There is foramen in the transverse process of cervical vertebra, which is the typical feature of the cervical vertebra. The vertebral artery arises from the subclavian artery, it passes through the foramen transversarium and through the 6th cervical vertebra, and occasionally about in 7.5% of cases at the level of 7th. Then they proceed superiorly along each of the transverse process to passes to the first cervical vertebra and then turn medially occipital triangle and then passes to the foramen magnum. It then runs rostrally alongside the medulla and pons to form midline basilar artery. It fuses at the junction of pons and medulla to form basilar artery. All other arteries divided to give branches. These two arteries fuses to give a new artery known as basilar artery, which proceeds rostrally along the anterior surface of the pons. See in this diagram, here is the two vertebral artery which fuses at the junction of, this is pons, this is medulla, which fuses at the junction of medulla and pons to form basilar artery, which run in the ventral surface of the pons. Okay. Before joining the basilar artery, the vertebral artery gave rise to three branches. The three branches are, this one is the anterior spinal artery. Here is vertebral artery. The two branches united to form anterior spinal artery. Second one is this, which arises from the lateral side of the vertebral artery, is the posterior spinal artery. Third one is posterior inferior cerebellar artery. Posterior inferior cerebellar artery. Okay. Posterior inferior cerebellar artery. posterior spinal artery and anterior spinal artery. The posterior spinal artery run caudally along the posterolateral aspect of the spinal cord and supply posterior third of the cord. Anterior spinal artery join together the forming single anterior spinal artery that run caudally along the anterior midline of the spinal cord, supplying the anterior two-thirds of the spinal cord. The posterior inferior cerebellar artery, it supplies the cerebellum. Third branch is posterior inferior cerebellar artery, often referred to as PICA, posterior inferior cerebellar artery. As its name implies, supply much of the inferior surface of the cerebellar hemisphere. Now come to the basilar artery. The basilar artery proceeds rostrally and at the level of midbrain. It bifurcates into two posterior cerebral arteries. Anterior and middle cerebral artery are the branch of internal carotid artery. Posterior cerebral artery is the branch of basilar artery. Two vertebral arteries first unite to form basilar artery, which again bifurcate to form two posterior cerebral arteries. Before this bifurcation, it gives rise to the numerous unnamed branches and two named branches. First one is the anterior inferior cerebellar artery and second one is the superior cerebellar artery. Posterior inferior come from the vertebral artery and anterior inferior come from the basilar artery. There are two parts of the cerebellar artery. First one is superior, second one is inferior. Inferior is again having two parts, anterior and posterior. So posterior one arises from the vertebral arteries and anterior one arises from the basilar artery. So two named branches from the basilar artery is the anterior inferior cerebellar artery and superior cerebellar arteries. Anterior inferior cerebellar artery arises just rostral to the origin of the basilar artery. See, here is the basilar artery. Just rostral, here is the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. This is posterior inferior cerebellar artery. This is anterior inferior cerebellar artery. It supplies more of the anterior portion of the inferior surface of the cerebellum. Then come here is the anterior inferior. This one is the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. See, this one is the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. Here is the posterior inferior cerebellar artery. Okay, this is anterior inferior cerebellar artery. From anterior inferior cerebellar artery, one important branch arises known as labyrinthine artery. Okay, internal auditory or labyrinthine artery. See here, superior cerebellar artery is lie here, after which the basilar artery divided into the two posterior cerebral arteries. Unnamed branches are the basilar artery supplying the pons by numerous pontine branches. See, these small branches are known as pontine arteries. So, anterior inferior artery arises just at the origin and superior cerebellar artery arises just before the end of the basilar arteries. Okay. Internal auditory or labyrinthine artery usually appears from the anterior inferior cerebellar artery. Its damage causes vertigo and ipsilateral deafness. Posterior cerebral artery. The posterior cerebral arteries arises from basilar arteries. Okay. The posterior cerebellar artery curves around the midbrain and passes through the superior cistern. The branch is spread out to supply the inferior surface of the occipital and temporal lobe. The posterior cerebral artery supply the medial surface and inferior surface of the occipital and temporal lobes. Along the way, it sends branches to the rostral midbrain, posterior part of the diencephalon, including thalamus. It also gives rise to the several posterior choroidal arteries, which supply the choroid plexus of the third ventricle and body of the lateral ventricle. Anterior choroidal artery is a branch of internal carotid artery. Posterior choroidal artery is a branch of posterior cerebral artery. Okay. Anterior choroidal artery supplying the choroid plexus of inferior horn. Posterior choroidal artery supply the choroid plexus of the third ventricle and body of the lateral ventricle. Anterior and posterior choroidal artery form anastomosis. Anastomosis comes from the Greek meaning to provide with an outlet or to connect, described as reconnection the two streams that provide branches out. In vicinity of the glomus. What is glomus? It is the enlarged choroid plexus which lie in the trigone of the lateral ventricle. I described all these things in my previous classes. The primary visual cortex are located in the occipital lobe. So, occlusion of posterior cerebral artery at its origin lead to the visual field defects in addition to the other deficits referable to the midbrain and diencephalon. See, this is the posterior cerebral artery. It supplies the choroid plexus. This is the posterior choroidal artery which supplies the third ventricle and body of the lateral ventricle. Okay. Here is the thalamic branch which supplies the thalamus, or other branches which supply the, here is the calacarine branch, here is the parieto-occipital branch, medial occipital artery, temporal arteries. These arteries arises from the posterior cerebral artery to supply the inferior surface and medial surface of the occipital and temporal lobes. Okay, this part, the part anterior to this supply is supplied by the anterior cerebral arteries. Okay, the middle, so the middle surface of the cerebrum having two arterial supply. The anterior part of the frontal lobe and parietal lobes are supplied by the anterior cerebral artery, and middle surface of the occipital lobe is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. Now come to the area of distribution of the three major arteries. The three major arteries which supply the cerebrum are the anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery and posterior cerebral artery. Anterior and middle cerebral arteries are branches of the internal carotid artery, and posterior cerebral artery is the branch of basilar artery, which is the formed by the fusion of two vertebral arteries. Any confusion? See, on the medial surface, the two arteries supply the posterior part. Here is the parieto-occipital sulcus. This is the demarcation line. Below the parieto-occipital sulcus, the area is supplied by the occipital and temporal lobe is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery. Okay, the area of cerebrum in front of the parieto-occipital sulcus is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery. See, here is the anterior cerebral artery. This gives pericallosal branch and calloso-marginal branch. Okay, here is the anterior communicating artery. This part is supplied by the medial cerebral artery. Now come to the lateral surface. The lateral surface is almost whole of the lateral surface is supplied by the middle cerebral artery. Only margins at the inferior border and superior border are supplied by the the area behind the parieto-occipital sulcus is supplied by the posterior cerebral artery, and area in front is supplied by the anterior cerebral artery. Okay, these are the three area of the distribution supplied by the major cerebral arteries. Now come to one important arterial anastomosis lie in the brain of the base of the brain is known as circle of Willis or cerebral arterial circle. The circle of Willis is a part of cerebral circulation and is composed of following arteries. See, here is the two anterior cerebral artery which is connected with the anterior communicating artery. Okay, anterior cerebral artery are the branch of the, here is the anterior cerebral artery, here is the internal carotid artery which is divided into anterior cerebral and middle cerebral artery. This is the anterior cerebral artery. Two anterior cerebral artery interconnect with anterior communicating artery. One branch from the internal carotid artery is the posterior communicating artery. In the cerebral part of the internal carotid artery, give 5 branches. 2 is the major division, middle cerebral and anterior cerebral. Third one is the posterior communicating. Fourth one is the anterior choroidal, and fifth one is the ophthalmic. These 5 branches arises from the cerebral part of the internal carotid artery. Okay. Here is the basilar artery which divides into two posterior cerebral artery. The posterior communicating artery connects the internal carotid artery with the posterior cerebral artery. These form a arterial circle, or it is about just like polygon. Okay, this arterial anastomosing circle is known as circle of Willis. The middle cerebral artery supplying the brain are not considered as a part of the circle of Willis. The posterior cerebral artery is connected to the internal carotid by posterior communicating artery. This completes this arterial circle. The French call it more accurately polygon of Willis, through which the anterior cerebral artery, internal carotid artery and posterior cerebral artery of both sides are interconnected. It is named after Thomas Willis, an English physician. Thomas Willis was an English physician, after which the name of this arterial circle is known as circle of Willis. Normally, due to the pressure differentials, very little blood flow around this circle. The arterial pressure in the internal carotid arteries is about the same as that of in posterior cerebral artery. So little blood flow through the posterior communicating artery. For the blood to flow through the artery, there must be difference in the pressure. The pressure between the two major arteries are almost the same, so there is little blood flow through the posterior communicating arteries. However, if one major vessels become occluded either within the cerebral arterial circle or proximal to it, the communicating arteries may allow critically important anastomotic flow and prevent neurological damage. By such a mechanism, it would be theoretically possible for entire brain to be perfused by just one of the 4 major arteries that normally supply it, but practically it is not possible. The anterior and posterior communicating artery are variable in size, so establishment of effective anastomotic flow in the event of arterial occlusion may also depend upon the time course of occlusion. If slow occlusion occurs, then communicating artery may become patent and blood flow through the communicating arteries. But if it abruptly occluded, they might cause a serious damage. Designating this arterial circle as normal, largely not to anesthetic needs, because fewer than half of the circle have this appearance. Some frequently seen abnormalities are asymmetry are common. One or more of the communicating artery may be very small or absent. One anterior cerebral artery may be much smaller than its origin than the other. This asymmetry in the cerebral arterial circle leads to the corresponding asymmetry in the way of brain supply. Other routes of the collateral circulations are also available in the cerebrum, although the cerebral arterial circle is likely to be the most important. There are anastomosis at the arteriolar or capillary levels between the terminal branches. These are usually inadequate in adult to maintaining entire territory of major arterial supply. Now come to the clinical anatomy. First one is the imaging technique to see the arteries and vein in the cerebrum. Blood vessels can be visualized with most imaging technique by the finding a way to make the blood content within them differ in some way from the surrounding structure. So all blood vessels become visualized. Cerebral angiography. This technique is known as angiography. Utilize an intravenous injection of iodinated dye that make blood more opaque than the brain in the X-ray. See, this is the blood vessels which visualized in angiography. A stroke. A stroke results from disruption of the vascular supply. The cerebrovascular disease and accidents are the most common cause of the neurological deficit. Normally, about 55 ml of blood flow through each 100 gram of CNS per minute. This is a little more than the CNS need to survive, but any significant reduction in this perfusion rapidly causes malfunction or even death of the neurons. Reduction to about 10 ml per 100 gram per minute for more than a few minutes initiate the process that result in the necrosis of the involved brain tissue. A necrotic region of the tissue is known as infarct. What is known as infarct? An abrupt incident of vascular insufficiency is called stroke. An abrupt incident of occluded blood supply is known as stroke. Thus, what are the symptoms of a stroke? It depends upon the site of the infarction. There is contralateral paralysis and contralateral sensory loss of the body. If left hemisphere is involved, then speech is also impaired. Bleeding into or immediate adjacent to the brain can also have a stroke-like consequence called hemorrhagic stroke. Ischemic stroke, those caused by sudden blockage of blood flow, are known as ischemic stroke. Absence of blood supply is known as ischemia. Are most common caused by the thrombus, that is means a blood clot formed within the vessel is known as thrombus, or an embolus. A bit of foreign matter such as blood clot form in other part of the body which lodge in the cerebral blood vessels of cerebrum is known as embolus. These two types of the these two are the types ischemic stroke and hemorrhagic stroke, which give rise to the paralysis to the opposite side of the body known as hemiplegia. See, these two are the CT scan image of the cerebrum or brain. Here is the white patch. This is known as hemorrhagic patch. Opaque patch is known as hemorrhagic patch. Here see, this is the black patch. This is ischemic patch. Here is normal tissue. Here is the ischemic patch. Okay. The opaque patch is known as hemorrhagic. The black patch is known as ischemic patch. If the occlusion occurred within the proximal to the cerebral arterial circuit, there is possibility of adequate collateral circulation. But if it involves slowly, then arterial collateral circulation from circle of Willis can function. But if occlusion is abrupt, then or it lies distal to the circle of Willis, then the part which is from where supply is hampered, it becomes necrosed, known as ischemic stroke. Third one is aneurysm. Aneurysm means dilation. There is dilatation in the ballooning of some portion of the artery are known as aneurysm. They occur most frequently at or near the arterial branch point. Those close to the brain are usually occur near the anterior half of the cerebral arterial circle. An aneurysm can cause neurological deficit by two ways. It may grow and pushes against and compress the brain structure. or it may also rupture and cause subarachnoid hemorrhage. As all of you know, blood vessels run in subarachnoid space. So any rupture causes in aneurysm, cause hemorrhage in the subarachnoid space. Now this is the last topic known as blood-brain barrier. What is blood-brain barrier? The concept of blood-brain barrier arises from early observation that many substances, when injected into the bloodstream, do not gain access to the brain. There is some barrier from which the substance lying in blood do not gain access to the brain. This barrier is known as blood-brain barrier. Such a barrier must consist of more than just an impediment at the junction between blood vessels and brain, because this alone would not prevent substance in the tissue around the brain from diffusing into it. The term blood-brain barrier therefore commonly used to more general sense to refer the anatomical and physiological complex that control the movement of substance from general extracellular fluid to the extracellular fluid of the brain. Using the term in this way, there is first one is the arachnoid barrier layer, second one is the blood CSF barrier, and third one is the tight junction between the adjacent endothelial cells together with lack of pinocytic vesicles in these cells. See, here is this is the capillaries, these are the bloods, here is the tight junction between the endothelial cells, plus the astrocytes lie along the blood vessels. These give signals to the cells of the capillary to form tight junctions. These tight junctions give selective permeability to the substance to the brain from the blood. In this diagram, you can see first layer is the arachnoid matter, which having tight junction. Second, this is extracellular capillaries. Okay. Second one is the, see here is the parenchyma. This is a pia matter. Here is the third layer is the ependyma. Here lie the choroid plexus. This in choroid plexus the capillary is fenestrated, but the ependyma having tight junction. This gives selective permeability of the substance from blood to the ventricles. This is blood CSF barrier. Okay. In choroid plexus and some fewer places, the capillary are fenestrated. In all other places, capillary cells in the capillaries are having tight junctions, which only selectively permeable to the substance within the brain. Astrocytes are believed to play an important role in relaying chemical message to the endothelial cells within the CNS parenchyma to form tight junction. See, these are the foot plates of the astrocytes, which cover the capillaries, and it gives signal to the cells of the capillaries to form tight junctions. Okay. Here is the podocytes, or this is the foot plate of the astrocytes. Circumventricular organs. As in choroid plexus, there are several other locations where the cerebral capillaries are fenestrated and allow free communication between blood and brain extracellular fluid. These additional sites are in contact with the wall of the third and fourth ventricle, are collectively known as circumventricular organs. Why circumventricular? Because it lies in circumference of the third and the fourth ventricle. What are these structures? These are the first one is pineal gland, second one is the median eminence of the hypothalamus, third one is the pituitary, posterior lobe of the pituitary, fourth one is the subfornical organ, and fifth one is the area postrema. See in this diagram, this is third ventricle, this is the fourth ventricle. The area lie within the circumference of these two ventricles. That's why it is known as circumventricular organ. In these organs, there is fenestrated capillaries. They don't have the tight junction in the capillary cells. The first one is the pineal gland, second one is the subfornical organ. This is the subfornical organ. Third one is this is the median eminence, and this is the pituitary. One more organ is known as organ vasculosum. One more organ here lie at the lamina terminalis is known as organ vasculosum. I didn't describe here. Fourth one is the area postrema, which lie in the medulla. Here is the area postrema. Some circumventricular organs have sensory functions. They contain cell body of sensory neurons that monitor the composition of general extracellular fluid and project their action to the other part of the CNS. Others are the sites where hormones are released from the neuron ending for the blood-brain distribution, both varieties. Free access of the blood stream is essential for efficient operation, so the capillaries are fenestrated. The ependymal cells which overlie the circumventricular organ form a barrier between the organ and ventricular CSF. They become specialized. See, this is the ependymal cell. Some ependymal cells become specialized, it is known as tanycytes. It's having foot-like process, and it forms tight junctions between the two adjacent tanycytes to protect the CSF. Okay, here is the blood vessels. One foot-like process lie on the blood vessels. Second, causing tight junctions between the adjacent ependymal cells known as tanycytes. Okay, this is tanycytes. It is modified ependymal cells which form tight junction with the adjacent tanycytes to protect the CSF from fenestrated capillaries, through which substance come and from which the substance passes to the brain, or from brain it passes to the capillaries, such as hormones from the posterior pituitary or median eminence. What are some functions of these circumventricular organs? Neurohypophysis or posterior lobe of the pituitary, responsible for the release of oxytocin or ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, in the blood through fenestrated capillaries. Median eminence or tanycytes protect the CSF from entrance of these hormones by tight junction between the tanycytes. What are tanycytes? Are the modified ependymal cells. Median eminence are the part of hypothalamus. They don't have blood-brain barrier. These circumventricular organs having no blood-brain barrier. Pineal gland contain many pinealocytes, which are the cells that produce hormone melatonin, and glial cells, which are particular type of brain cells that support the neurons. Subfornical organs involved in the cardiovascular regulation. Area postrema is the center for the vomiting. It is known as chemoreceptor trigger zone and vomiting inducing center. It is also known as vomiting inducing center. Thank you.